Welcome to SF Commercial Property Conversations with Bruce Bean, where Bay Area investments meet expert insights. Get ready to unlock the strategies of commercial real estate success.
Today we have the great pleasure of talking to Greg Sharp. Greg got into the condo conversion business, which I'm very interested to hear about. So Greg, if you wouldn't mind just kind of going through a little history of how you got into commercial real estate and condo conversion, that would be very fun and interesting for me to hear.
Very good. Yeah. I started life out as an engineer and eventually got frustrated with working for over-promoted engineers. So I decided to get out. And I actually took a Robert Allen seminar. I read all of his books, and the no money down concept intrigued me. And I went to a seminar and called my wife and say, I think I can do this real estate thing full time. I want to quit my job. She says, oh. So hang up, call my boss and quit. He was frustrated. I only gave him nine working days notice. And then get home that night and tell my wife, I'm so glad you let me quit. And she said, you what? I said, okay, that we could talk about it. And it's like, okay. So it started off not so great, but I stumbled into condo conversions. I met a woman that was interested in condo conversions, and I was trying to get a listing or a buyer for a property in Long Beach. It was 0.6 miles from the beach, and had a guy that said, I only buy half mile to the beach, so I'm not interested. But it's like, engineer, look at the numbers. They work. There is a really great property, and it could be converted to condos. And one thing led to another, and I ended up pursuing it, put down my 401k as the deposit. It fell out of escrow 2 or 3 times before I got it. And then I went out fundraising, and this guy was watching me. And one day he says, Greg, we're going to go to lunch, and we're going to be partners in the condo conversion business. And I'm going to teach you everything, and you're going to do all the hard work that I don't want to do. I just said, sure, it sounds great to me. And that's how I met my mentor, Chuck Terry. And he actually had a $300 million a year condo conversion business, mostly working with Lincoln Properties in the 80s. And then he got crushed in the 90s. And I worked with him for a couple of years, and then he had a heart attack and passed away. And I out on my own. And if I had his wisdom, I would have ended up that cycle a lot better. But had a bit of a bankruptcy in there. And there are bigger, better, smarter people that went sideways on that too.
In 2008?
2008, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people had trouble during that period. Yeah.
And that's when I moved into brokerage for loans. I had the contractor's licenses, HVAC, electrical, plumbing, general B. I was a 203K consultant for HUD. I got my green contractor's licenses, and I was all set up to do the licenses, do everything on our properties. And we would raise the money. We would buy the property, analyze it, and not in that order, analyze it first, then buy it. And then we'd manage it, do the entitlements, and we'd evict everybody, which in LA County, I was very expensive a couple of times. And then, we'd do the renovations, battle it out with the mold and asbestos guys. And then we would list them all for sale. And so I did every piece of that along the way, but more on a larger economic scale. My partner, who was very aggressive and a far better businessman than I am, he got us going really good, fast, so that we had a lot of properties when the downturn hit. But we did over 200 units worth of condo conversions, buying, selling, whole value add and everything. We were probably about 100 million in business that we did. And we were set to exit with a couple million apiece. And we needed about 6 months more on the to exit with money.
And then it hit.
Yeah. But since then, I've managed to go through a cycle and a half or two. And, you need to experience that because it really drives home the lessons once you learn it. Because when I started, the first investor, he gave me $500,000. And 1 year and 1 day later, I gave him $1 million. It was my first $1 million check that I ever wrote. And so I doubled his money in a year.
Wow. He was
happy. He financed other projects. And I had 2 investors who would finance 100% of what I needed for the money. So they provided credit enhancement and all that. one project, when the downturn was happening, the bank said, we're not going to renew the loan. I said, why? And he said, well, it's lender fatigue. I said, what's that? And he said, well, we're tired of the loan. We don't want it. Like, okay. I was stressing out because nobody was lending. And I just go to my guy and he says, that's okay, Greg. I'll write the check, pay off the bank, and I'll be the bank for you. And he says, remember that first conversation we had? It's about you had a group of investors that were small people from real estate. He says, I told you that when there's a problem, you want someone like me beside you because I can write the check and solve all the problems, which is exactly what he did.
Wow.
So he taught me how to write up the prospectus, the one-page executive summary that he wants to see. He says, I don't need a 20-page pitch deck, a 50-page pitch deck. And engineer, my first analysis had literally like 13 inches of paperwork. But I knew the property inside and out. He asked a few key questions. I said, don't you want to see my analysis? He says, no, I've seen enough. And so I learned very quickly that to do you don't need a lot. You just need to know the key fundamentals and how to present it to people so they can make quick decisions, because they're always getting pitched deals. And if they have to work hard to understand the deal, they're just not interested. I don't have time for this.
Right. Yeah. And if it's too complicated, it's too complicated, and I really don't want to be involved, or they say that kind of thing. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But he was real patient with me. I still have a bit of an engineer in me. I love the details. And he would just coach me. And after the first one, I wrote him a $1 million check and doubled his money. He's quizzing me, grilling me. I couldn't understand why he was grilling me so hard. I said, Alec, just trust me. He just sat back in his chair and said, yeah, Greg, I do trust you. That's why we're talking.
That's why I'm grilling you.
Yeah. 1 second pause. It's like, okay, let's get into the questions. And those are lessons you don't really learn unless you're in the game with somebody that knows what's going on. And he taught me well. I still text him from time to time and throw a deal at him. And he's now much older and says, Greg, I've got enough money. I'm old enough. I don't need to work. I don't need to take any risk. So I'm not going to.
Done risking.
And that's the thing. When you've got enough money, whatever that is, stop and get really conservative. It's keeping the money. Because when I got into real estate, $1 million was a lot in real estate. And then when I wrote the $1 million check, that seemed like a lot, but not so much. And I started seeing that $1 million of cash in my bank account was a lot of money. And so the perspective changed on what's a lot, and the value of real estate, cash from somebody else, and my own personal cash. That's what's important. And you want to make sure you keep your capital. When you lose your capital, you can't do much.
No, you're kind of lost and you can't move forward. So what are you working on currently?
Currently, I do some consulting on the tech side still, but most of the time I'm working on loans. I'm brokering loans for people. One of my favorite clients, he started 3 years ago with nothing. He had a background in real estate, but he got his brother and 2 other guys, and they've been buying apartment buildings. They got up to 55 doors, and now they're going for a 50-unit apartment. So they're going to have 100 units under management, and we're working on a $7 or $8 million loan for them right now, and it's looking pretty good. He's going to go for a bridge loan because it's higher leverage and allows them to be more profitable with less high-cost investor money. But they're looking like models varying. I created the model for him as well. And we're looking at probably an 18% IRR, which a lot of his investors like. Averaged annualized return is how they think of it. So they take the total return divided by 5 years, however long they're going to hold it, and they give it. They say it's going to be like a 20.9% average annualized return on your money
over 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah. So
they're doing value add, and I do a little coaching with them, and a lot more than just broker loans. And I've helped him grow. He got his first agency loan last year. It was a Freddie Mac loan. And we're working on stepping him into the big boy loans, where he's got to have the liquidity and the net worth. And get it all. So it's a process from my own projects. And now I kind of half coach him, encourage him to be aggressive and, go after things, but also not make stupid mistakes.
Right.
And then I get to live vicariously through him by doing the loan. And actually, I'm pretty good on Excel. The engineering background definitely helps on the analysis. And so I'm doing like 8-tab spreadsheets for them that show all the profit analysis. And, if you sell at this sort of refinance here and sell at this period and what's your IRR and all that. And
so how many sources? Hundreds? Not quite hundreds.
Yeah, there are probably thousands out there and hundreds that I can connect with. It's hard to stay connected with everybody. And there are key categories of lenders that I'll go with. And you have to see who's lending. Like, I forgot the name of the Chinese bank, but their bank deposits weren't strong, so they stopped lending, but they're going to be coming back. And there's another bank that's trying to go public on the NASDAQ from the pink sheets. And so they've been growing. They doubled their stock price in the past 10 years, and they're going to make it. So they're aggressively lending. I got a line of credit for the guys. So it's all about reaching out and talking to people about, what kind of program do you have right now? So it could be the agency debt. Which I'm a correspondent with a direct lender for the agency. And then there are bank relationships, but a lot of it's hedge fund backed. There are lending conferences I go to, expensive lending conferences.
Oh, really? Well, how much does a lending conference cost to go to?
Well, some of them are kind of on the low side, maybe $50, $100, but there are some of them like IDN that's going to be, $1,000, $1,500 to attend.
Oh, wow.
But it screens out the quality of people there.
Right.
And so, there I'm seeing guys that are, 30 million, 100 million billionaires. I've got a family office group that I belong to. And so it's a variety. So there'd be the hedge fund backed people, the hard money, some life companies, the agency debt, and then banks. And they all have their place. And the whole thing is getting the people to tell me, okay, what's your goal? What are we trying to do for you? Where are you going? If somebody's for a loan, their first words they're going to say are, what's your rate? I go, I don't know anything about you or your project and where it's at. And
I need more information. Then I can get you a rate. Yeah.
That's also the first clue that I really don't want to work with them. I don't want to waste my time because they're going to shop me to death. They'll get a quarter point different and they don't see all the value that I can add and help grow them like these other guys that are doing the 50 unit acquisition.
Exactly. You want repeat customers. So how are you marketing your services?
Primarily, I'm on LinkedIn. I've gotten to 20,000, 21,000 contacts.
Oh, wow.
Much of them are worthless that I really shouldn't have. It's kind of hard to filter that many. But I'm getting a little frustrated with that because I can't have relationships with 20,000 people. So I've got to do better at my outbound marketing. And I'm only looking for a handful of clients. If I get 5, 10 clients, then I can serve them really, really well, help them with their finalysis, give them a little coaching, arrange the loan, and I can shop for them and spend the time with them. Whereas if I'm trying to just churn and run people through the mill, get them a loan, throw them off to the lender and move on, that's actually a poor service model. How a lot of the young investors are geared these days. They just, what's the rate? Give me the rate.
Give me the rate. I just need to go here. Yeah. So what are you doing in terms of trying to maintain these people and so forth? Obviously, you're giving them great service and so forth. And then hopefully they're going to come back and want more, just like your apartment guys. And so off you go from there. But is there anything else you're doing to try and keep your clients in-house, so to speak?
My apartment guys, I add enough value that they don't want to go anywhere else, and they're loyal.
Yeah.
I got another friend. We did a house flip together in 2009, and I taught him how to do the house flip. And then he went to his family for a number of years, who were very successful. One uncle was generating $1 million a year passive income from his apartment buildings.
Oh, yeah.
when he went out on his own, he raised $5 million from his family. He wanted me involved with the projects. So I was doing a little bit of project management. And then he needed some loans. And all of a sudden he realizes he's so busy managing his projects, he doesn't have time to manage the loans. So he says, Greg, you just handle all the loans. Now I'm kind of like an outsourced in-house lender. And if people are trying to do something and accomplish something, they want to be able to hand off these tasks so they can focus on where they make the most money. And people don't make a lot of money doing loans for themselves when they got the whole project to do. So I become the specialist working on their behalf for someone like him. And then my old condo conversion partner, he went off and did a bunch of Montessori schools, built the business and the building, sold off. He's sitting on a lot of money now. And he says, I'm done with loans for now. Maybe in 3 years, I'll refinance. And we'd be putting him into the lowest rate long-term agency debt. So he's going to be an end-of-life customer, but he knows me and he trusts me. So it's all about building the trust, saving them time so they can focus on where they make money. I've had partners that said, I want to squeeze every penny I can out of the project. It's like, well, I need volume because the agreements, they put up all the money. I did the management with them. So I got 25%, they got 75%. I said, you're sitting on a bunch of money. I want to make revenue and build my wealth. I can't do that on 3 or 4 highly profitable projects a year. I need a little bit of volume on the house flips. And so they're squeezing the money. It's like, I can't work with people like you because there's not enough money. I'll do 20, 30% more projects, make less money per project, but I'll make more in the long run because I'm able to do a higher volume.
So are you doing consumer loans? Are you on that side of the equation?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
After the downturn, I was just pissed off at everybody and said, I'm just not going to get that NMLS license because it wasn't my fault that the country screwed up and Wall Street sold stupid loans. But I found it from time to time. I can make a little money referring it to a friend, but it's just more hassle that I don't need. So it's narrowing my focus so that I'm investment properties only.
Yeah. Yeah.
Though my lenders will be nationwide, even though I'm in Southern California.
When you were doing condo conversions, were you in the consumer loan side? Probably not. You take those out.
We were going direct to banks.
Yeah.
And our high net worth guys, and that's all that we needed for the loans. Then when it came to the exiting, we had my mentor, his son was actually very talented at Argo, Chuck Terry Jr. And he hooked us up with their developer division. And so we worked out a way where they would pay for some of my marketing costs and he would pre-qualify all my borrowers. So again, it's that model of how are they adding value? I don't have to handle the lending side on the borrowers because they're coming in, keep them. I've got the whole banking side that understands condo conversions and how to do the partial releases on the big bank loan. And of course, my bank that was loaning on that on the commercial side knew how to do the partial releases. So we went through the entire DRE, yellow, pink, and white reports to have the legal authority to sell under the Subdivision Map Act in California.
Oh, wow.
And so there was a lot of moving parts. And if he made a lot of money making those consumer loans, then those people couldn't come back to me because I brokered them if they had a problem.
Oh,
and it was kind of a liability separation, but also a division of labor. I was already doing everything else. I didn't need to do loans too.
No, you didn't need that extra little perk in there. So you were making your money on the sale.
There were 2 sales out of all the condos I sold where I regretted making the sale. And it was typically people that felt entitled and said, I took a training course. I know what my rights are. It's like, okay, I need to not work with you. I don't know what you're doing, and you think you do.
Right. You think you know what you're doing, so fine, go do it. Yeah.
They ended up being more trouble than they were worth.
That's interesting. Yeah. So there are occasions that we run into where the client seems to think they know more than you, and it's just not worth working with them because they're going to torture you the whole time.
Yeah. Well, and that's the same my high net worth guys have done to me a couple of times. Like, Greg, let me handle it. You just step aside. And like, okay. And there's a lot that we don't know. And you gotta know what you know. And that's where back to my engineering roots. I like to know that I know. It's not enough to say I know, but when I can prove that I know something, then it gives people confidence. So when it comes to raising money, I had my 13-inch stack of documentation. I knew the property, but he knew that I knew it because I could give him the numbers he needed off the top of my head. And that gives people confidence that you can perform.
Yeah. No, it's I think that's one of the key factors of getting into the business is that that people that have been in it a while have this formula in their head, and they can pretty much tell you in 5 minutes or less whether a project's going to work or not if they have those numbers come in that they can see and feel and understand.
Yeah. And that's where building the models from scratch in Excel, I know all the equations that go into the math behind the project, and I set it up so I can tweak numbers so I can see what changing numbers does to my qualification for the takeout loan, my debt service coverage ratio on the exit, and my profits and my profit share or my waterfall with my investors. And so not everybody knows the financials and the background and the inner workings and the levers to pull like I do because I build the models.
Right.
And when people are talking about something, I've challenged people and they don't like it. If you don't like it, well, then you're a person I don't need to work with because you don't understand.
So just for the audience's clarification, can you just talk a little bit about the waterfall and they may not understand exactly what that is?
Yeah. It's basically how you do your profit splits. Investors like security, so I give it to them. So 100% of the profits of the proceeds go to paying back the capital. Then maybe 90, 80% of the profits go to paying a preferred return of 6%. Then it gets to a 50-50 split where 50% of the profits go to them until they reach what they call a hurdle, which is maybe an rate of return IRR of 15, 18%. And then after that, it goes in my favor because if they're making this good return, it's because I've picked a project, analyzed it, and managed it well. So I should be rewarded. So on the backside, the investors also look at it as, okay, yeah, you deserve a reward, but they don't want it to go 100% to me and 0 to them. So we'll go to a 70-30 split in my favor, and beyond a really aggressive IRR, if the project has legs for it, we'll go to a 90-10 split.
Wow.
But it all depends on the investor and the project. The 90-10 in my favor generally doesn't happen lately because the projects haven't been that great. But
yeah, well, it's a different world out there now. So,
and some investors say, no, we're just going to do it straight 70-30. And that in
all the way through.
Done, it's simpler.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Oh, okay, I can work with that, but I've got no incentive to bring you my best deals and no incentive to work really hard. I'm going to be successful because I want the money, but So
I'm curious. I mean, the waterfall and the equations you're talking about are pretty complicated. So how complicated are your agreements? How much do attorneys in these agreements?
Attorneys are required. In the condo conversion heyday, when we were doing rinse and repeat with the same investors, we'd recycle documents. But today, when it comes to the hard money loans, Garachi Law, they are like the best. He was an intern with Dennis Doss, who did my very first hard money loan. And Dennis Doss dominated the state of California for hard money loan legal work. And then Garachi, he came on the scene strong. He's nationwide with the American Association of Private Lenders, and he's a great lawyer, phenomenal. And he does events in Vegas and in Newport.
Okay.
So there's some great people in the industry that really know what they're doing. And, I could probably go get a law degree if I wanted to, but why would I? I've got great lawyers that save me so much time. You spend money with them, but it's all buried in the cost of doing business.
So it sounds like you're using attorneys that know this field so well that it's probably less expensive to actually use them because they can grind through things very, very quickly and not spend a lot of time editing stuff.
Yeah, both firms that I've mentioned have template documents that you can use. You get larger and in the fund realm, then it gets a little harder, and you need other people besides just these guys.
Yeah. Well, so Greg, how would somebody get a hold of you if they're ready to get into either finding a loan or maybe they want to know more about development or condo conversions?
Certainly, I'm generally good for a conversation. I've had no problem talking with you. Sorry if I talk too much. But I think you've got my website at the bottom of the screen. I don't know if that's still showing up.
Yeah. Why don't you repeat it
It's www.retajagroup.com, spelled RETAJA group, GROUP.com, Greg at retajagroup.com. And my email is greg@retajagroup.com. And pretty much I'm looking for people that are trying to do something, that want to grow, that will do some repeat business together. And I think I can make you more successful. And if you want to just shop loans on your own, that's great. There's a difference between the two types of clients. On one hand, people are going to want to save the money, not pay the broker fee, and do all the lending origination themselves. And they've got more money. The people that are successful, they have more money than time, so they can afford to have somebody get a broker's fee, and it saves them enough time because they make far more money in their real estate business than try to save a broker fee. That's my client that I like to work with.
So is there a geographic area that you have a preference for?
I'm in California. If it's going to be an intense project, it's better if it's in California. But my lenders go nationwide, so I go wherever my lenders are. The analysis stays the same. Different assumptions go into it for different areas, but pretty much good real estate areas. North Dakota, South Dakota, and not so much. I've done a loan in semi-rural, almost, Idaho. Rural loans are really hard to do. There aren't too many.
Interesting.
You're probably better off just going with USDA and getting a USDA loan. But rural loans get tough.
Yeah. So it's better off if you're in some urban area or city area, not outside.
Yeah. Now, someone like Freddie Mac, they'll do rural areas, but they've got certain criteria, and they'll do like a tier 3 market. But they're going to be looking for cash flow and market size to impact your rates.
Yeah. All right.
That's a wrap on today's journey through the SF commercial real estate scene. Ready to share your story? Visit sfcommercialconversations.com/guest. Your insights could lead the next conversation.